Hello, everyone. It is Michele Payn again, joining you from West Central Indiana. And I'm so excited because I get to be here with one of my great friends today, Eliz Greene, who's up in Wisconsin. Great to have you, Eliz. We sure appreciate you joining us.
Oh, it's always fun to have a conversation with you. So this should be really good.
Yes. So Eliz and I go way back, so far back that we're not even sure how many years it's been that we have been friends. But we have written a wide variety of books, usually at different times, and given each other feedback. And I want to show everyone this is Eliz's new baby, Stress Proof Your Life.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it beautiful? And we have to cradle babies, right, Eliz?
Yes, that's right. That is right. Because they are hard to birth.
Yes, they are. But Eliz has done some really interesting research on stress, and that's why she's joining us today in celebration of National Agriculture Week and ways to build resiliency and really help overcome these crazy times that we live in. So first, Eliz, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure. Well, Michele and I have been friends a long time because we are both professional speakers, and that's how we met, through an association. I came to the speaking world and the book writing world because I had a weird experience when I was 35 years old and pregnant with twins. I suffered a massive heart attack. It all turned out well. I'm healthy. My girls are 20 years old and healthy. But that was a very stressful time. And because I have a small part of my heart that doesn't beat anymore, I have spent the 2 decades since that happened making sure that I was paying attention to my health. Big part of that is managing my stress. Stress is a major risk factor for heart disease. I don't need any more risk factors. I just like to keep the ones that I have in control. So over the years that I have been working the system for myself and sharing it with audiences and readers, I switched from really talking about heart disease to really focusing on stress because it is the under-addressed risk factor. It's hard to determine how much stress you're under. It's hard to quantify that. I did a research project looking at what causes stress at work. That really fed into the book that Michele cradled for me, which I appreciate. And really, was kind of my birth coach in a lot of ways in the process.
So that sounds really bad, Eliz. This is the book if you're just joining us.
There was a lot of take a deep breath advice.
There was. Yes. So Eliz, no stress firsthand. I think anybody who's written a book, no stress firsthand. But I mean, Eliz, all joking aside, we are in an incredibly stressful time.
Absolutely. And we have been for a while now, which is why it's such a problem.
Yes.
This long, unrelenting amount of stress.
Well, and it's about finding the little things that you can do to reduce your stress and to bring joy and to help others in doing that. So right off the bat, Eliz, what are 3 quick tips that you would have for us to cultivate resiliency?
I love this topic. I really do. My first tip is to focus on what is possible instead of dwelling on what's difficult. My second tip would be to recognize what's going on and take steps to actively recover from the stress, often caused by things that you have no control over. And the third tip, and this is probably the hardest one, is commit to do the work.
Okay. So let's talk about focus on what's possible. There's a lot of people right now, particularly those that are on a farm that have lost contracts, lost markets. Economically, it's extraordinarily difficult. There's so much uncertainty. So how do people specifically focus on what's possible rather than the difficulties of uncertainty?
It is hard. And what happens when we are bombarded by these levels of uncertainty? And let's be fair, people in agriculture are great at handling uncertainty most of the time. I mean, all of the things that you do in our agriculture are affected by things you can't control, right? So people in agriculture fall into what I call the highly capable people,
Mhm.
highly capable people to start with, problem solvers, work through things. Like, we're just going to power through harvest because that's what you do, right? But now you are in a state where this uncertainty has been unrelenting. Usually there's a little break in the uncertainty at some point, hopefully in most years. Been under this pressure for so long. And at some point, a highly capable person is deeply uncomfortable with not being able to control anything.
Mhm.
When you have a problem that can't be sort of muscled through, solved, you just have to wait for the arc to finish. That's a difficult process. And it's very easy. We are, as highly capable people, programmed to look for the problems to solve, which means that we focus on those things that are difficult.
Mhm.
What is tough is when everything is difficult, everything seems difficult, and it wears on you. If you can find any piece that you can say, oh, there's something that's possible, there's something that's positive, it allows us to sort of switch the focus momentarily.
Mhm.
That allows our bodies to say, oh, maybe I should let some of this cortisol, that stress hormone, to come out of my body.
Mhm.
Maybe I could let that happen, because when that happens, our brains work better, our heart works better, everything works better when we bring that cortisol level down. And I'll be honest, there have been times in my early adulthood where things all seemed pretty bad. And my, like, what am I going to focus on? What's my win of the day? I'm like, I'm a good driver. I'm a very good driver.
Mhm.
What is it that is possible? I can sit down and have dinner with my family. That is something that's possible, even though everything else seems really
Mhm.
difficult. What is possible? What can we grab onto? When you start focusing on those possibilities as opposed to the difficulties, that's when we can let that cortisol level come down and we start to feel and think better.
Yeah, it's really interesting to look at the science around cortisol because a lot of people
Mhm.
think that they can just, as you said, particularly in agriculture, power their way through things. And cortisol is your body's response to stress. And
Right.
science clearly proves it has an incredible impact on us negatively if we allow the chronic stressors to continue to drive us. And so some of the chronic stressors in agriculture are clearly the market's changing, weather is always one, paperwork, regulations, dealing with family, which can also be a positive. So we have all of these chronic stressors. I had to get that
Right.
caveat in there. We have all these chronic stressors, and people need to understand that we have to deal with this for our own health, not just our
Mhm.
mental and emotional well-being, but for our physical well-being.
Right.
So I know one of the things that you write about, Eliz, is how to quantify your current stress level. Could you
Right.
walk us through that just a little bit?
So, in order to work with people the way that I have over these years, I needed a tool that would allow people to see where their stress level is. Because what I think is most fascinating is when we use this tool and I ask people, virtually, it's like I put up a poll, what's your stress level right now? People often misidentify their stress level. Like, I'm not really stressed. And then we go through the assessment and they're like, oh, shoot, I'm really stressed. Because it's paying attention to the signs and the signals that your body is sending you. Part of it is, how are you sleeping? If you are laying in bed at night and all of this is going on and you're not able to get to sleep, or you wake up in the middle of the night and then all of this. Right now, we are moving my mom from her condo into assisted living. I can tell you, like, I wrote this book because it's the stuff that I follow, and I have been working the system really hard over the last month because there's a lot to handle, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and the brain can't shut
Mhm.
up. really paying attention to what's going on. Like that is a big clue that I am stressed. Uncertainty is unique in the way that it causes stress because it never goes away. It's something that comes into your environment, stresses you, and then you get it done or whatever. Cortisol comes down naturally anyway. Uncertainty and overwhelm, when it never leaves, just keeps it up there. So if you're working on a problem and your brain just doesn't seem to be able to engage, that's probably a clue that there's too much cortisol going on in your head and it's not allowing your brain to work the way it should. Really paying attention to those things, whether you're eating more or eating less than you used to. If you're, even, the sex drive can get messed up because you're stressed. Whatever is going on, just paying attention and saying, ooh, this is not normal for me. What is going on? Very often it's because there's a stress in our environment we can't control and it's causing us trouble.
Yep. So quantifying stress levels are important. What about ideas to overcome overwhelm?
So there's a lot. We could spend like hours talking about that piece. But when things are calling for your time, energy, and attention, and they're all screaming at their loudest, that is overwhelm. There's so much to do, and it's almost paralyzing to figure out what to do next. That is where overwhelm comes in. And I think for all of these, whether it's uncertainty or overwhelm, the key is really that active recovery part that I talked about when you asked me for tips. Is what is it that it's going to allow you, your unique person, to disconnect from the thing that is causing you the stress, the thing that wakes me up in the middle of the night and makes me, think. What is it that's going to cause you to disconnect and allow you to recover, allow that cortisol to come back down? And I talk about whether you're a border collie or an iguana in the book. And if you go to stressproofnow.com, you can take this quiz because I think it's a really helpful way to think about what do you need in order to recover. This all comes out of a vacation I took with my husband for his 50th birthday. He likes to scuba dive. I don't like to scuba dive. We went someplace where we could do that. It was a lovely, warm place. The key to this story is that it had a pool in a mangrove with iguanas running around the pool. The people that we went with really enjoyed the pool. They would lay after scuba diving. They would go and hang out in the sun and drink a beverage and read a book and take a nap and chat and have a beverage, that sort of thing. I am super pale, can't be in the sun that long. And my husband doesn't sit still. So we were in and out all the time doing all kinds of activities until one afternoon we came back to the pool and one of the gentlemen said to my husband, when are you going to relax? You're go, go, go all the time. And my husband said, I am relaxed. I'm like a border collie. If I don't have something to do, I start chewing on things. And right. So it's one of those times in a marriage where something happens and you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And he's not chewing on things. He's doing that thing that happened to me in the middle of the night. Like his brain is like chewing on all the things that he can't control. Whether, the thing that he delegated at work is actually going to be taken care of. That he needs to shut this off. He needs to be fully occupied in order to shut that off and recover. I honestly, a little more on the iguana side. I like that quiet contemplative time. I love to read my book. I love to watch the sunset. I can hang with the border collie, which is good because we're married. But I also need some iguana time. So the idea is, what is it that you need to disconnect from stress so that you can recover? And if you can combine that with something that signals your body to let go of stress, that's even better. Now, Michele, I know that you are an avid exerciser. My guess is that occupation allows you to disconnect from what's causing you stress, but also you are bringing your heart rate up and letting it come back down again, which signals your body to let go of the cortisol. And you're changing your breath, because when you're exercising, you take longer, deeper breaths. When we're stressed, we take short, little shallow breaths. That is also another signal. So that's like a super, if there were such things as superfoods, which they're not, but exercise is like the superfood for stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Jason Meadows is actually going to be joining us tomorrow on the final day of the series, and we'll be talking about exercise extensively.
Right.
But let's talk a little bit about overcoming overwhelm. Besides
Mm-hmm.
exercise, besides the vacation example, which is wonderful, but not everybody has time or can afford to go on a vacation. So
Right.
what are some things when the overwhelm and the stress and the tension are just boiling up, and you're sitting in a tractor, or you're out there and you're trying to work cattle and it's just not going well.
Right.
And you feel as though you're going to burst. What are some quick things that people can do at home or in work to overcome the sense of overwhelm?
Right. So I think going back to knowing what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Do you need sort of quiet contemplative time, or do you need to be fully occupied? And that doesn't have to be exercise. If you are, for example, somebody who loves video games and you're playing and you're really engaged, especially if you're playing in a group, that is getting that cortisol or that heart rate up and back down again. It's fully occupying. It allows you not to think about the things that are causing you stress. That can be a really good tool. I know a lot of people in agriculture are big fans of music.
Mm-hmm.
Singing in the tractor to your favorite song may be the best thing that you can do for your stress level, because there's a lot of research around the fact that singing elevates your mood to start with, but then you're lengthening your breath.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you're trying to remember the words or you're singing something that you enjoy, your brain is occupied. There's lots of layers to that. So singing in the tractor or the combine might be an excellent way to reduce your stress. And if you have the thing on, you don't have to worry about anybody hearing it.
Even if you're not Peterson Farm Brothers, you can still sing.
Just enjoy it.
Yes, I can tell you when I used to fit cattle that our cattle knew every hard rock song there was, because I would turn it up and I would sing to them, and no one else was around, and that's a good thing because no one wants to hear me sing. Hey, Ashley, up in Canada, mentioned that a really great tool to regulate your body's cortisol production would be to simply fill in a pie chart with things you stress about every day. Once it's made, take the largest area occupying your headspace and throw it out. Would this type of exercise on paper be any use?
You know what? I think that sort of exercise is really helpful. I have a exercise in the book that really allows you to look at what is in your stress environment. And too often, I talked about everything crying at the same volume for your attention. Too often we don't even recognize all of the things that are weighing on us. We're just sort of trying to maintain. Mm-hmm. And even writing down, on Post-it notes, this is my favorite exercise, writing down everything that is occupying your time, energy, and attention, whether that's a positive thing, something that you like to do, or something that you don't like to do. It doesn't really matter whether it causes you stress or doesn't cause you stress. Writing everything down and actually looking at everything that's calling for your time, energy, and attention, and then practicing a little ecology about, like, does this thing really feed what I want to feed? Is it making my life better? Is it supporting what's important to me? Or is this just occupying my time and it's not that important? If it's not that important, you can throw it away. Like, just take it off the table and make more space for the things that are really important, that do make you feel better, that do allow you to do the things that you love to do. It's not an easy process. It's hard to let go of things. And one of the things that I've talked about for years that I have used a lot in the last several weeks is that when you have something going on and you need to say, I know I committed to doing this thing by April 1st. I am moving my mom. It's not going to happen. Voicing it helps. But when you're being honest and you're sharing with another person, there's something really satisfying and even healing when somebody says, "Oh, wow, that's really hard." Of course. Of course. Let me know when you can get that to me, or let me help you with that. I can't tell you how many people have offered to take some of the pressure off of me. Just the offer makes a difference. But I think if we all talked about our struggles more and we made it more socially acceptable to talk about those struggles, it
Yes.
wouldn't be so hard.
Well, and that's especially true in agriculture because normalizing struggles is a real
Yes.
challenge for people who like to just solve things, for sure. And
It's
I would,
it's the curse of capability. When you are always the person that solves the problem, it's really hard to say, I can't solve this one.
mhm. And unfortunately, we're in a time where I think we all need to do things differently, and sometimes
Mhm.
we need to ask others for grace and for help, and that is a learned skill. Let's just leave it at
It
that.
is. And the way I like to talk about it, particularly in resilience, is it's a choice.
Mhm,
And it's a choice that we make every single day. Are
mhm.
we going to do the work to deal with the stress that we have, most of which we can't control? Are we going to do the work to make sure that we're identifying how we're reacting, taking steps to bring the cortisol down so that we can live and work well
Mhm.
under all of the pressure?
Yes, living and working well physically, mentally, and emotionally would be a wonderful goal for 2021. And
Yes.
Eliz, great insight as always. And I'm so excited to let everyone know that Eliz is actually going to be contributing to my new agriculture's growth calendar that I announced earlier this week. And she'll have stress management tools, insight, and research in that calendar. That's a lot more than just dates. It's actually filled with resources. So thank you, Eliz,
Oh,
for
it's my
helping
pleasure.
our agriculture community. People want to get a hold of you. How can they do so?
I think the easiest way, because this is where you're going to find some tools right now, is to go to stressproofnow.com, and you can find me there. You can take the Border Collie Iguana quiz. Lots of there's an ebook on coping with uncertainty there as well.
Very good. So stressproofnow.com, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's
Excellent.
right.
Well, thanks, Eliz. Have a fabulous weekend up in Wisconsin. I hope it warms up. Field work is starting here in Indiana. We're all excited for spring to get underway and appreciate all of your work and research. And if any of you who are watching have questions, feel free to post here, and Liz and I will make an effort to answer those. So thanks again. Have a great day.
Have a good one.